Hey, it's Drybear. And Wildgate has finally released out into the wild and is available for play now. And now I did just finish a full beginner's guide going over all the mechanics, the ship-to-ship combat, finding your hard points and your ship weapons, trying to equip your character, the different characters and what they do, the gameplay loop and how to function, how to do all that stuff. It's in a separate video that you'll find on my channel. But today, what I wanted to do in this video was just give my first impressions of the game. After playing it all day yesterday and playing it today, what are my thoughts on the game, where it sits, and whether or not you should get it if you haven't gotten it already. So let's start with an overview of what the game is for the people that haven't played it yet. So it is a PvEVP extraction game. So you will, with five teams total, so you and 4 other teams, they're all teams of 4, and you will be granted a ship, and then you take that ship around into an open area full of resources and dungeons and other encounters and collect things, either ship guns for your ship to upgrade it, attachments called hard points that you plug into the walls that give it passive buffs or, better handling, better shield regeneration, better hull regeneration. It generates its own ammo. All of that stuff is available to you based on what hard points you hook up to your ship, and you'll find these in the POIs all around the map as well. The primary forcing function, like the objective, the win condition for this, is after a certain amount of time, a Wildgate will spawn. It's the name of the game, and it will be an extraction portal. This portal will appear somewhere on the giant map, and you have to take your ship, pilot it over to the extraction portal, and exit in order to win the game. However, you cannot exit the area unless you have a artifact on board for your ship. The artifact is, there's only one of them in the match. They will spawn randomly on the map separate from the portal, and you have to go to a hard dungeon, clear the dungeon, get the artifact at the end, put it on your ship, and fly through the portal to escape. If anyone has the artifact on their ship and they exit the portal, the game is over. That team wins completely. Whether the other players around or not is irrelevant. As long as you get the artifact on board and get into that portal, the game is over. The other way to win is just to destroy the 4 other ships and kill all the players that are there. As long as you have a ship that isn't destroyed, you can respawn infinitely. It's like a 12 to 15 second timer. It rolls, it's done, you spawn back on your ship, and you can keep going. However, other players can board your ship, like Sea of Thieves. They can destroy things, pull out attachments, steal guns away, set your engine to overdrive and cause it to overheat. They can set up bombs and traps. They can kill your pilot and all of that. So the whole core of the game is looting, going to dungeon areas, finding loot, equipping it on your ship, finding other opponents that are flying around in their ship, board their ship and steal things or kill them, defend yourself against players that are trying to board your ship. Eventually, the artifact will spawn. You'll either want to kill the other 4 teams and win that way, or grab the artifact, get it on board, and exit the portal and win the whole entire game. Now, it is a character-based game, a character-based shooter, you could say. There are 7 total prospectors to choose from, and they all come with different abilities that they can bring to the fore, mostly in their movement ability, how they move around in open space when they're spacewalking away from their ship, or combat abilities, placing down different effects, going stealth, being able to see enemies that board your ship through walls, having extra repair, or even being immune to oxygen, which is a resource that every other breathing character has to deal with as they move around in open space. Like, they run out of oxygen, they'll die, but one of them is a robot, he doesn't have oxygen, that sort of thing. So all kinds of abilities and combos you can have, and you want a good mixture of these when you have a team of 4 set up. So what's the verdict? What are my thoughts on the game, and what do I think of the game in the future? I think that this is one of those games that's very unique and very niche. It is something that you probably won't find very much in other places, right? There are a couple games that are kind of like this. We have some ship-based games that have all kinds of different perspectives: Star Citizen, Star Trek Online, Space Engineers, even Space Program, and some various others. But we don't really have a whole lot of PvP focused FPS, TPS, or vehicle-based games that are focused on the PvEVP aspect in general. And that is probably the first critique that I think a lot of people have. This has come up many, many times in my chat over the time I've been playing it over the last 2 days or so. A lot of people have said, well, is this game only PvEVP? Is there a PvE mode? I've been asked many times by people in chat, hey, can I get a solo version of this? Can I get a PvE only where it's just us and we're just looting together as bros. We're driving around in our ship collecting loot and doing PvE only without being invaded by other players. So there's definitely going to be that drive there, and this is something that comes up a lot in games that try to mix PvE and PvP. And the response from the devs that we've seen is that they don't intend to ever do pure PvE. They want the core game loop to be a mixture of looting, doing dungeons, grabbing loot, and then fighting other players for your chance to escape. And there's definitely a lot of pros and cons to this. The PvE side can be a little bit safer for the people that want a safer experience, but it means that players will chew through content more aggressively, and it becomes more expensive to make ongoing updates to keep the PvEers satisfied. If it's PvP only, the PvEers might become bored and stop playing it in general, but the content is a little bit more renewable because in this case, the content is the other players you're facing, not the PvE content that the developers create here. So if you're wondering if there's going to be a solo mode, a PvE mode, no news on that from the developers right now. They seem hard focused, hard fixed on doing the PvEVP extraction looting experience that they have right now. Now, that being said, there is a wide range of dungeons and POIs that you can go into. After about maybe 10 to 20 hours, you start to recognize them and you get very familiar with them. But in general, you got these different enemies you can face, different loot rooms you can loot, different layouts. There's payload objectives. There's places that are lacking oxygen. There's tons of debuffs and like roguelite experiences that you can get from the game. They will change up how you experience each run in general, but the PvE is a little bit more limited, and you're focused more on getting better at the game, getting your loadout just the way you want it, and being able to beat other players as you improve over time. And while it isn't a battle royale, it does kind of have that battle royale sense of urgency, in that you really want to, as soon as you spawn, start going from dungeon to dungeon, getting as much loot as you can, because you need a lot of ice, you need a lot of fuel, you need a lot of ammunition when you're going to go ship to ship battles. You consume a lot of those very quickly when you face another team in head-on ship combat, but you also are going to want, upgraded weapons that can mean the difference in winning a battle. You're going to want upgraded hard points that give your ship more regeneration, more protection, more maneuverability, more offense and damage. You also want people on the drones spotting things. You want people repairing things that break or putting out fires internally. And of course, you want people spacewalking, trying to invade the enemy ship, because one good invader at the right time can cause mayhem on the enemy ship and completely shut it down. And that's kind of the other point of challenge for this game in general, is that it is a 4 versus X kind of game. You have 5 teams of 4 that are facing each other, and I have had games where we lost one player, and that one player made all the difference in the world. Like, it's actually so important that you have a full squad of 4 people working together. Otherwise, you're not going to have someone in the pilot seat, so your ship is a sitting duck, or you're not going to have someone putting out fires, and so the whole thing's going to catch on fire and burn down. You're not going to have someone on the guns, so you're not going to do enough damage to the enemy team. You're not going to be defending against invaders. There's just so much that you need to do to man the ship properly that you will need a full team, which again is going to be a bit of a knock, like a negative for people that want a more small form solo experience or duo experience. You will want to have the full 4 for every single game that you run. Now, that being said, the game is actually super fun and very snappy. It's got that kind of WildStar, old school, kind of like goofy art style to it, which makes it very friendly and approachable, but the combat is pretty good. The time to kill is very low. You will die in one-on-one combat with an enemy almost instantaneously if you're not paying attention. So you die quickly, you respawn quickly, you're gathering stuff, you're ramming ships into each other, and the combat feels really cool. And I feel like, with a lot of these kinds of games, Skull and Bones and stuff, failing in recent years, having a game like this is very solid and super fun. And that brings me to my next point, which is there is always a hard choice to make as a developer on which road you go when you're making a game like this. A game that is more niche, that's going to hit a smaller audience. You kind of have to make a choice as you're launching it. Your 2 options primarily, the ones that people consider the most, are A, completely free to play. Now, what are the pros of this approach is when you do completely free to play, anyone can just join in and play the game and play it for free. You end up getting large player sizes. We saw this with many games, like Marvel Rivals when it first came out, Throne and Liberty when it first came out, The First Ascent when it first came out. All these free-to-play games get massive player sizes because everyone tries it for free and everyone's checking out the new game, and then that player size shrinks down over time to something a little bit more manageable. However, the challenge with the free-to-play approach is while you get more players on board, you also put a lot more pressure on your microtransactions to recoup your funds for making the game in general. And so free-to-play play tends to be a little bit more predatory or aggressive in their monetization, whereas you can go the route that Wildgate took, which is a little bit more of a pragmatic approach for games like this if you don't think that you're going to be able to monetize off microtransactions in general, and that is they made Wildgate $30. It is $30 USD to buy the game, which means that while these player numbers are on the lower side for one platform on PC, especially a game that just launched, every single one of these players gave up $30, right? So while you get a much smaller player pool, you get a lot more money up front, which means you can recoup your funds and it becomes a little bit more reasonable. So the question then becomes for a lot of people, is this game worth $30 right now since you can't play it for free? And I think that's going to be a big point that you have to kind of decide inside yourself on, like, internally on whether it's worth it for you. In general, I would say that games like this either grow slowly over time or they're a flash in the pan, and that, you know, in 6 months, 12 months from now, you're not going to have anyone playing the game and it's going to falter, you know, or you might just have like a very small, steady player base, right? And generally with games like this, they are the most fun to play when they launch because no one knows anything. There's no established meta. And if it is going to be a game that slowly, like, you know, slowly stabilizes over time or declines, then you're going to want to play when more people are playing, when they're accused to be popping right now. So I would say that if you're someone that doesn't have a spare $30, it's probably a game that's going to be, you know, in your back burner, wait for sale kind of thing. See if after time the game survives on its own. Games like these are very niche and specific, so they end up having their own kind of play style or group. But it depends on, you know, with all the other games coming out, if there's going to be anyone playing it when you decide to play it. And that's where my thoughts are on the game right now. Super fun to play, very addicting. It does require you to have a full team, so you might get frustrated solo queuing trying to get this done like I have. In general, is, you know, sometimes there's just a wide range of people in the matchmaking that put it together, and again, that's compounded by the smaller concurrent player count, because obviously there's less people playing, the queues are going to be a little bit less saturated, and also means that the matchmaker is going to have a harder time making very safe, well-balanced teams if there are less players to choose from in that pool there as well. So I would think for most players, this is probably going to be a wait and see kind of game. You know, hold on to your $30, wait for a sale, or just see how the game develops over time as they start doing updates and things that improve the game. Maybe it keeps getting better and they keep adding new content. Or if you have the $30 spare and this seems like your kind of jam, I think you'll probably get a good solid like 40 to 100 hours out of this before you start, you know, getting to the peak level where you're really good at the game and you know what you're doing and you're just waiting for new content, or the matchmaking gets a little squirrely based on how many players are online at that time and how good you've gotten at the game in general. So you kind of have to weigh that against what's going on, but that would be my take on the game overall. Very fun, but also very niche, and you kind of have to decide whether that $30 price tag is worth it for you or not. But as always, let me know what you think about Wildgate if you've been playing it down below in the comments, or if you haven't, let me know what you think and what your impressions are looking at the game from the outside looking in down below. If you found value in today's video, leave a like down below, leave a comment for the algorithm to help this video get seen by more people, and don't forget to check out my other channels for other content and other stuff and other things.